9th, 2025. We're excited. Yeah, the holidays were a lot. They were very busy. So we still wanted to maintain a level of consistency. The snow days kind of had us preoccupied with the kids at home. And I'm like, why are you still here? I don't know if you saw the video I posted with KJ saying it's snowing, it's snowing. My husband was he took them out to to shovel, and then they were like having a ball. They were playing with the snow, they were sledding. I mean, it was just a whole thing. And I was in the house working, but he was making it happen. And KJ was a couple of people said that he was forecasting the weather. So they enjoyed him just communicating verbally. I think they were impressed and blessed by that. So
Yes, I did see it. It was so good. I loved it.
Yeah. And so, that's a segue for one of the points that I think that we'll tap into, that you have to just appreciate and captivate the positive moments, because it's like you have to be intentional about being joyous and hopeful and all of the things, because you can get caught up in the mundane challenges, and it can feel overwhelming. So honey, did you want to say anything before I start?
No, just happy New Year, and thank you for everyone, all one of you that's joining us this afternoon.
For this time,
Yeah,
right?
it seems like she's logging on, so I'm getting her on shortly.
Okay, great. Excuse me just for 1 second. Okay, so we're going to admit. Mhm. See that it's taking a little bit of time to come through. But we thought it was apropos to discuss managing aggression within the autistic community. And again, when we talk about, autism, it is on a spectrum. So some children may experience certain aspects and certain behaviors more than others. But this is just a general perspective, and certainly we want the input of everyone who is here. Good morning, Jackie, or I should say good afternoon. How are you? She might be on mute. Okay. Well, we're just happy. Yeah,
I mute myself.
yeah, she might be
What's
trying.
going on?
Yeah, well, we're just happy to have you, and we'll just begin the presentation. We're so glad that Daphne shared with you what we're doing. I just want to share just a little bit about KJ's Genesis. We're a not-for-profit agency here in Maryland now. We also provide services in Philly. We're trying to expand within the DMV area, and we provide advocacy, special awareness events, and education. Now we're within the aspect of parent support groups, and we're going to be hosting our first Healing and Empowerment Conference in April 26th, 2025, in Wilmington, Delaware, actually at our church. So we're really excited. We really believe that there is a marriage between the behavioral health community as well as the faith-based community, and it's something that we really strongly tap into pertaining to the families that we support. And it was motivated by our son, KJ. He is 16 now. So we've experienced just the younger years. And I think each of them have their challenges, but I think when going through it, it can feel very overwhelming, particularly when. Oh, okay. Thank you, Daphne, for letting me know. Okay. Then good morning, Jackie. I'm sorry. I thought that you were Daphne's. I thought that you were Daphne's cousin. Jackie, can you hear me? Okay. All right. Well, very well. But anyway, you're more than welcome to be present. But yeah, so we've experienced the wide gamut of just experienced throughout our son's development. And over a period of time, people started calling us experts, and we were pretty much just trying to keep our head above water. But I think we have over the years been able to acquire a level of a resource pool. We have connected with quite a few occupational therapists, speech therapists, behavioral specialists, and people who we've kind of garnered and galvanized in order to support our son, support our family, and support families like our own. And so we have found that connecting with this group has been a form of therapy for us, and it has also been an opportunity for us to empower others. And so, without further ado, we're going to just begin our. We have a slideshow that we want to share, and then after that, we certainly welcome input from anyone who may have questions or just share ideas and experiences that they've had. Okay. Okay, wait 1 second. I just want to make sure that I am okay. Wait a second. Okay. I just need to share my screen, and I just started going into it. Got that. 1 second. Okay. Slideshow. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. All right. Yes. So our topic of discussion today is managing aggression within the autistic community. And one of the big pointers is communication. And just as we share, I want you to feel free to just come off mute. If you come off mute, we will certainly give you an opportunity to share. Communication is a biggie. It's what we feel empowered as human beings to connect one with another. And I just think from a spiritual perspective, the word says that he was speaking to Adam, and he said, "It is not good for man to be alone." And so whenever we find ourselves in a place where we feel isolated or we feel misunderstood, then it causes a level of frustration, right? And what we've identified that frustration comes from are communication barriers and blockers. And so there are supports that often help children on the spectrum because a wide percentage of children and families, right? So it's not just children, but adults, teenagers, and those transitioning into adulthood. A lot of them are nonverbal or minimally verbal. They may share via echolalia or patterns of repetitious communication, but may not be able to share full sentences, right? Whereas some do, right? So there are those who are kind of have like the Asperger's and are a little bit more high functioning and just may have more of an awkwardness. But those who have issues just communicating verbally, just in general, they need more supports. And so we identified some of those as just electronic devices. Sometimes there will be an iPad that they have with communication, what they call is a picture exchange communication. It's like the PEC system, and they'll identify specific cards. So KJ, like I said, he's 16 now, but when he was younger, he just carried it was like a board. He had one in his hand and one that was like bigger, right? And it would just identify different items, maybe things that he needed, different ways of just greetings, good morning, hi, those types of things, just to elicit communication. And these devices are utilized for the purpose of eliciting communication from the children. I was a little reluctant to start the process of having KJ utilize it because I felt that it would replace his communication. And so the speech therapist and the occupational therapist said, "No, Ms. Yancey, that's not what it is, but it will help." And so oftentimes specialists will encourage a multimodal communication system. And what that means is they may utilize a communication device. You may utilize prompts, right? So KJ, one thing that he would do is he would grab our hand. If he wants something out of the cabinet, which a lot of times his request is food, he'll hold your hand and try to bring you to the cabinet. He's utilizing prompts. He may point to the top of the cabinet and say up there, you know. And so we as his parents would use, you know, we'll say up there, you know, so we would encourage that speech so that he's able to speak. I think the other component is that to recognize is that oftentimes, even though our children may not verbalize, it doesn't mean that they don't understand, right? So they may verbalize maybe 250, 300 words, and they may have a capacity to understand 1,000 to 1,500 words. So just understanding that oftentimes in communication, what you verbalize does not necessarily indicate what you understand. And I can use that in the realm of those of you who may know more than one language, right? If you speak, for example, I'm Haitian. My parents are Haitian, but I was born in America, right? And so there's certain words that I understand, but I may not be able to say. And so oftentimes our children, they may understand and may not be able to say it or have some challenges around that. And so another form of assistance and support with communication is sign language. And so it helps children who are on the spectrum to be able to understand sign, just like those who are hearing impaired. And some children on the spectrum actually become very, very well versed in that. So that's another avenue of assistance and support. Another way is choice boards. So this is something that speech therapists may develop and they would encourage, and actually some of them would help have me say, you know, offer KJ various choice boards. And on that choice board, I may say yes, no, maybe, or later, something like that. And then as it pertains to food, we may identify specific food items for him to identify so that we're eliciting that speech. Everything is for the purpose of having him or her in your child's situation to become more comfortable with communicating. And the more comfortable they are, the more relaxed, the more willing they become to communicate. Even if, you know, it may sound it may sound weird to some, right? Or they may pronounce the word maybe a little different, especially if your child may have had some hearing impairment, but always encouraging whatever form of communication that is shared, that it's not wrong, it's encouraged, and always celebrate that. And the more we celebrate the communication, the more it's elicited. Yeah. Does anyone have any ideas? Yeah. I thought you were going to say something.
I don't know. I was agreeing with you.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I mean, the communication, it's just like in any relationship, you know, in a marriage, you know, communication is probably one of the top issues in marriages. If there's healthy communication, then um, it really improves the quality of the marriage, the quality of the relationship. But when there's an issue with communicating, then of course the anger, the frustration is heightened. Same thing with our children. So it's important that we take the time to really study our children, natural children, but children who have special needs. We have to study them a little more, and we have to be a little more patient with them.
Mm.
Just like with me, and I'm communicating with KJ. Sometimes because he is verbal, he may say he wants a donut or a cookie, um, and he don't necessarily mean a donut or cookie. So I have to know that if he says a donut or cookie, maybe he wants a Rice Krispie treat, but he don't know how to say the word Rice Krispie treat. So he'll say a cookie, and
Mhm.
I'm looking around like, all right, well, I know we don't have cookies, so I have to sort of
Mm.
figure out what it is that he wants.
Mhm.
But that's a way to really keep the temperature down, because if he finds himself having that barrier and he can't really communicate what he wants and
Mhm.
get what he wants, then that's easily a tantrum, you know.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of you have to be patient. It takes a lot of patience, but it definitely pays off, because the more you invest in paying attention and communication, it'll definitely keep the anger and the frustration levels down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that point, hi Lisa, good to see you.
Oh,
And to that point, sometimes even like because right now, KJ's 16 and we really focus on helping him towards independence, right? We have him in a vocational program right now. He's enrolled in a high school, but it's a specialized school, and we want him to potentially be able to get a job. We want him to be able to get his own place. We want him to get married and have kids. He needs to get married, but that's a whole nother issue. But anyway, oftentimes in helping him towards his independence, there are times when we're helping him, for example, just cleaning his room, helping fix his bed, placing his pillows in their proper location. So I may say, KJ, get your pillow. And he may grab one of his stuffed animals. And I'm saying, no, son, that's not your pillow. That's your pillow. So then he'll take the pillow and then put it down. And so a lot of it is like very step by step, detailed communication that is concrete for the child to be able to hear and understand. Because also, there's also his processing, because sometimes we may say, KJ, come here. But if he was fixated on being at where he was in the room at that time, to us, we may perceive, okay, well, he's being rebellious or he doesn't want to respond, where in his mind, he has to internalize the fact that you're asking him to come to the other side of the room and he just sat down. So in his mind, why are you asking me to come here? So his processing is a little different. So to just to validate Jamar's point, that we need to allow him the time to process, and sometimes he might close his eyes and he might just have to calm down, and then he'll say out loud, come here, come here. So he's articulating what we're telling him. It's like how we do self-talk and you'll just say it in your head, right? But KJ will actually say it out loud, right? Or, for example, if he may have had a tantrum prior and he may have been hitting himself, we'll say, KJ, don't hit yourself. Or he may have, hit one of us, and we'll say, don't hit me. That's not nice. He may say out loud, don't hit me. So what he's doing is he's talking to himself, don't hit me, because he's thinking about hitting himself. But because we have helped prepare him with skills prior that help empower him to know, no, son, next time you think about hitting yourself, don't hit yourself. So instead of saying, he may not say, don't hit yourself, he may say, don't hit me. He's saying, KJ, don't hit yourself. Right. And so just being able to understand how your child communicates. Each individual has their own idiosyncrasies, and it helps to understand what they're saying or why they're doing it. And it explains, oh, that's why he's doing that. We use a lot of music therapy, there's something about the beat and the cadence of the music that helps him to self-calm. So, for example, KJ can be having, a tantrum, and what we do to interrupt his mindset in having that negative flow, we might play one of his songs. So he likes Canton Jones, Hallelujah. He's a famous gospel rapper. He loves Canton Jones. So if we start playing Canton Jones, KJ starts moving. Now KJ's dancing. He's not focused on the tantrum anymore. He's now focused on the rhythm of the move of the song. So now he's starting to say, hallelujah, hallelujah, with the song, as opposed to whatever he was doing. So it's almost like whatever he was frustrated about, that frustration starts to diminish and he starts to focus on that song. For example, if I'm preparing him something to eat and he wants it now, and I'm saying, okay, we might need 5 or 10 minutes. So he might start tantruming during the interim. And so during the interim, we may play a song to alleviate his wait period. So now he's singing and dancing, and now the food is prepared. And we say, KJ, it's ready. So then now he's like, okay, it's ready, it's ready, it's ready. And so to empower him even more so now, when he was younger, we didn't do it as much, but now we'll say, get your placemat. So now he's being empowered. He's getting his placemat. Get your fork. He's getting his fork. He's placing his food down. Okay. And then he'll say, can I eat? And whereas one of our neurotypical children, they would just sit down and eat, but he wants to know that it's okay for him to eat now because he's ready to grow up. You know what I mean? So it's just understanding the concrete necessary communication that helps him to understand that he's doing what's appropriate and socially acceptable at that time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Does anyone have questions or any input, anything you might want to share? Okay. All right. So we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, some stressors for ineffective communication. Feelings of aloneness or isolation can result in some of these behaviors. Tantruming, crying fits, self-injury, or physical attacks. And that can be, directed toward themselves or someone else. I think this is a big one, and I think it's a good sticking point. If there's anything that I would like for everyone to take away with, is understanding the reason that a child may have some of these behaviors, and not only children, but teenagers and adults as well, is a sense of aloneness and isolation. I notice, particularly with KJ, with him being 16, a lot of times it's not just the basic needs that he has. And what I mean by that is he might be warm in the winter, cool in the summer. He might have the food that he needs. He might not be angry, upset. All of those things may not be a concern. It may just be that he wants to connect, or he feels alone, or he wants to play. And so I think some of the areas where abstract thought is difficult to communicate, that's where it's challenging, because, he can say, I want to eat. He can say, the water's too cold, some of those things. But, if his feelings are hurt, or if he feels misunderstood, or if he's isolated, then sometimes those are challenges. And that can result in a tantrum, because it's like, how do I get that need met? Right? How do I get the need met that I want to be able to talk to my classmate in class, and we're not able to connect with each other? And so I feel alone, right? It may result in crying fits. And we saw this more when he was younger, and I guess more developmentally appropriate at that time, more when he was like, between 2 and 5, but I think also between, 5 and like 10, 11, where he would like, fall out and kind of have like a tantrum, like a fit. So I would say probably for a neurotypical child, those types of tantrums, and maybe around like age 2 or 3, age 4, it's like, no, you standing in the corner. So, but he would kind of have fits where he would like kind of fall out, because he's wanting attention, right? He's wanting to have some type of assistance and support. And it feels like there's a barrier, like we discussed earlier, a barrier or a wall that's hindering him from being understood. And so it causes frustration. The self-injurious part, that can be challenging. It can be challenging for parents as well as professionals. I think that people who are in the field are prepared in the sense that they have they have like sometimes like these like supports on their arms, that if a child were to try to pinch them or do something like that, they're prepared. They have like physical things that they'll carry. For example, if children are walking in a hallway in a school and that child may elope, they'll try to use these barriers to stop them from running away. They have specific holds that they use. For example, if a child is going to hurt themselves or someone else, they may do a two-person hold where both individuals will escort that child to a safe place so that they don't try to elope, for example, in the street, which we've had experiences with KJ trying to elope in the street. And so because they're prepared for those types of behaviors, I don't think that the emotional stressor is as severe as it is for parents. Not that it's not stressful, because I do believe that they need support as well. But I think that when you see your child hurting himself or hurting themselves, the head banging, scratching where they're leaving marks, it can be daunting, and like, oh my goodness, that kind of thing. But as we begin to understand again the function, the reason that they're doing that, then we can see a decline in that. I think one of the things that's challenging for me is seeing KJ's rise and fall. And so there are times that he can do exceptionally well, and he won't, he won't scratch himself for a couple of weeks. He may not scratch, because sometimes like he scratched his face in the past. And I'm like, son, you're so handsome. No, don't do that. Or he's banged his head. Once he was at school and he banged his head to the point that I had to take him to the hospital. And so it was that severe that he needed medical attention. And so there are times that he's been at those extremes, and there are times that he's done really well. And so then oftentimes it's like, what is the recipe to make sure that we don't get here? And so what we do is we create structure, right? We try to maintain consistency in our patterns. And that's not only at home, but at school, at church, like within every setting that we take KJ into, there's a level of preparation prior to getting him there. So, like I said, at home we have structure, but say, for example, like during the school break, like he had to be home for an extended period. And so, whereas, maybe some of our neurotypical children, they're like, yay, it's break time. KJ is like, I want to go to school. And so he's tantruming and he's upset because there's a disruption in his structure and in his routine, and this is one that we can't control. And so here now he's starting to demonstrate behaviors that we can't necessarily control. And so that's where it's challenging as parents to watch our son kind of go through his process and kind of deal with life on life's terms. On a snow day, son, we're not going to school. So I'm so grateful. I don't know, some of you did see the video that we posted, but my husband took the boys out. He was shoveling, and then they were out, playing in the snow. And so KJ's like, it's snowing, it's snowing. And so he had a good day that day. But other days he's like, I don't like the cold. Let's go inside. So he was sledding. He enjoyed himself. And so that was a positive experience that we had, where there was a disruption in his routine, and we were able to make sure that he was okay. And so oftentimes we're just administering damage control, for example, like on Saturdays, he is used, like he'll get up like it's 6 or 7 o'clock, clockwork. And so, we make sure he gets his medication, we make sure we give him his food, and so forth and so on. But he wants that engagement with us, and we're groggy, we're tired, we're like, listen, we've been working all week, like give us a moment. And so what we started to do was we started taking him out to the playgrounds and to the park. The biohealth is really good for him. Just being able to move. There is a level of healing in movement where he's able to dance and move around. So when we go out, he's able to run, he's able to jump, he's able to do all of those things. But the weather has changed, so we're not outside as much. And so there are times when you implement a plan of action to make sure that that your child or your young adult or your teenager is able to implement. And sometimes there has to be an adjustment implemented within the structure that you set. I think what we try to do is prepare KJ for a level of flexibility. But even in that, he may resort to some of these behaviors because his stress level has increased and he doesn't necessarily understand the way, one of our neurotypical children does. Now we are able to express like, okay, KJ, you're going to be on break now, but I can definitely let you know when KJ started going back to school, his behaviors diminished. He started being on task again, less tantruming, less, desire for attention. So maybe, just being able to go on that ride to school, engaging with his peers, all of those were forms of implementing that structure that he needs on a regular basis. And that's what he needed. Even though while he was home, we were trying to give it to the best of our ability, it didn't do the same thing. Yeah, I did want to pause and just allow for anyone to give an idea or a thought or something in regards to that.
I have a question. I have a question. I just was when you was talking, y'all doing a wonderful job with this. I love it. So, but I was thinking about, I said, well, how does it work with respite care for the parents? Like if you guys need that time for you, you know what I'm saying, for y'all need. So is it set up? Do you have it set up, or you have to come in and train or show people how your structure is set for KJ? Like when y'all need time to get away, or y'all need you know what I'm saying? Do y'all have somebody or resources that will help in that area? My question to
Yes.
you.
So when we lived in Philly, because we've been in Maryland about 4 years now. So when we lived in Philly, our system was really set like clockwork, and we had nursing care, special support. So nursing care assistants, CNAs, things of that nature, who would come. Some of our nurses were RNs, but we had a gamut. And they would be able to implement, his needs medically, as well as his needs, as far as just his assisted daily living goals, give him his food, those types of things. KJ does have a G tube, but most of his nourishment he gets, by mouth. KJ can eat. So he's just like any teenager, that boy can eat. So, so we just make sure that those things are in place. And we were able to, like go to church, and he would stay home, usually during the week, during Bible study. During the weekends, we would take him, or he might go to his biological dad. This is his stepfather, but he's his bonus dad, and he's really a great father for KJ. But he he is he's KJ's champion. But yeah, so we had that support in Philadelphia. When we came to Maryland, we live in Elkton. And so our community has very limited support, unfortunately, for the special needs community. So specialized care for children, they don't have that within this county. So we've actually looked into other counties like in Delaware, because we're 10 minutes out of Delaware. But we still were not able to secure it. So we're still hopeful. We do have one of our nurses who was amazing. She was amazing. She was like a therapeutic nurse, and she's actually going to start her own respite business, where she wants to provide respite for families when they go on vacation. And that business in and of itself is just an amazing need that families have. And so within that, yes, we do share how to engage with KJ. A lot of what KJ utilizes are his senses. Like KJ can tell if someone cares, and he doesn't. You know the saying, people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. KJ is very sensitive. So if he senses that that person cares about him and they're going to help him get his needs met, sometimes with people, he connects with them right away. And other people not so much. Like when we went to City of Love, he connected with Pastor Arnold right away. Like he always loves Pastor certain people, and other people, he might just need some time. And other people he can connect with. Like if he feels that someone is upset or hurting, he might walk up to them and want to give them a hug because he can feel their hurt. Right. So he's sensitive in that way. So once there's a good connect, because we usually want to have like a meeting where that person is able to kind of adjust to him. And once that initial meeting takes place, we're able to move on from there. The other component with KJ and children or adults who may be on the spectrum is that he does receive medication, and they're psychotropic meds. And so they would just have to be able to administer those meds, and they assist with managing, some of his tantrums and things of that nature. But for example, like I was talking about this particular nurse, and KJ had a tantrum with her, and I think he wound up hitting himself or something. And when I came home that day, she said, "Listen, Miss Cynthia," she said, "I'm done." She said, "I didn't come into this business to hurt no babies." She said, "Listen, I didn't do it." So I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "Listen, I know your integrity. I know that he might have hurt himself or something. So don't feel like I'm going to like point blame at you if he potentially hurts himself." And they developed a beautiful relationship. He would be upset, and she would start counting. She would be like, 1, 2, KJ, we not having this. 3, 4. And KJ would look at her, and after a while, he would just calm down. But she had that peace on her. She would sit. She would wait till he went to sleep. She would play his music, because we play like worship music when he's sleeping. She would play his music. She would let him go on to sleep. And we would come home and he would be fine. She'd be like, I'll see you tomorrow, you know? So, but that is something we would love. We would love to be able to have a nurse or even a family member to let KJ hang out with and go on vacation and come back. So, so that's a prayer. That's a prayer. Did you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, just to touch on the feeling of being alone, aloneness and isolation. Um, the anger and the frustration is minimized when we can sort of break down that barrier. I think with KJ, because he doesn't come to us. Sometimes it's like KJ wants to be alone. He don't want you in his space, and sometimes he wants to engage, and it's hard to notice which mood he's in. So for me, it's like I'm intentional about checking checking in with him and seeing where he is. Um, and I try to make sure that we're all like that, because sometimes his behaviors can want you to isolate him or to distance yourself from him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you really need that space at the time, then yeah, I think it's best that you take that time and isolate yourself or take some time away, because you don't want to overdo it and frustrate yourself and frustrate him. But to check in every now and then, I think we had to, me being the stepdad, the bonus dad, we had to develop a relationship, and I had to show him that I do care. Like my wife was saying, KJ is very sensitive and he knows who cares and who doesn't care. And one of the ways I show him that I care is I keep checking in with him to see where he is, and what he likes to do. Some of the things that he likes to do, I don't really care for,
Give an example.
but right. So one of the things that he likes to do is like to kiss me in my face. Um, I'm not too fond of that. It took some getting used to, but because I understand how important that was for him, and that was a way that he bonds. So I sort of, I endure it, and when I started doing that, he would come to me more, and he would want to spend time with me more, show more affection towards me. Um, Less tantruming, less scratching. When he was younger, he used to scratch my hands a lot, so now we've got to the point where he doesn't scratch me anymore. um, and I check in with him every now and then. Sometimes I'll go up to him and I'll hug him, and he'll push me away, like, not right now, you know what I mean? And then there's times that he'll come up to me and he'll say, give me a hug, give me a hug, you know what I mean? He gives me this huge bear hug. um, so I think just checking in with him every now and then, just to see where he is, if he wants to spend time or if he wants to be alone. And the same with our younger children. We have our youngest son, Izzy, his younger brother. Sometimes Izzy wants to want to play with him. Sometimes Izzy's like, no, I don't want to play. I want to be alone. And I think sometimes Israel can get frustrated because his behaviors is frustrating to Izzy as well. But what I share with him is, we have to be intentional about spending some time with him. It's not all day, like, leave me alone, leave me alone. You can't isolate him all day long. You wouldn't like it if we did that to you. You know what I mean? So make sure that you're intentional about spending some time with him throughout the day. So if you know that you didn't play with him all day, at least check in and say, hey, KJ, you want to play? And then they'll run and they'll chase each other around. But just to have that time to where he's not alone and he's not feeling isolated throughout the day, I think that's important to keep the stress level and the anger levels down. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Other causes of anger are GI or other health problems. We mentioned this briefly, tiredness or hunger. Oftentimes, if they're not able to communicate that, it's good to just check in and just ask them how they're doing. If the child has a challenge with their sleeping pattern, and this is, I think it taps into what you mentioned, Lisa, that it's whenever sharing with a caregiver, it's important to let them know what the gauge of the child is. If that child is didn't sleep well last night. For example, like when KJ goes to school and he had a rough night the night before, or if it's allergy season, and he's having some issues with managing his allergies, it can cause him to be up at night. And so the next day, he might be a little bit more tantrumy, a little bit less attentive. And so I might send a text or message to the teacher just to let them know, he's been having some challenges. If he needs to take a nap, allow him to do that, because, he was having some issues, and I'll make sure that I give him his medication, all of the things. But understanding why he's responding this way, and I really think it taps into his humanity and the humanity of just all of us. Like, if your allergies are acting up, you don't feel the same, you didn't sleep well the night before, you may not be able to perform at your maximum potential. And so I think it's being able to tap into those areas and give grace when it's needed. Hey, Lillian. um, Another thing is hunger. I think one of the things, particularly with children who are on the spectrum, is are their sensory needs. And so um, I wouldn't say that he's more hungry than others, but I would say, oh, my husband thinks that he is. Yeah, it's almost like, give it to Mikey, he'll eat it. Give it to KJ, he'll eat it. Yeah, but I think all teenagers are like that. But anyway, but when he is hungry, like, for example, our younger son, he may say, okay, mom, I'm hungry, but with KJ, it might be a real tantrum. So we need to make sure that we don't allow for, his regular times of eating to pass. And then additionally, to ensure that, maybe he has snacks in between. So one of the things that we do is, after dinner time at night, after giving him his meds, we give him a bag of cereal, dry cereal, with water and his straws. The straws address the sensory. And if he gets hungry in the middle of the night, or when he wakes up and we're not able to come to him right away, he's able to be independent. He knows his cereal is right there, as well as his water. So that way, it gives us a little bit of time to be able to tend to him. And now we've helped him develop a level of independence. The other component is anxiety or sensory needs. Just sometimes, just really being able to discern, like my husband was saying, like, what is the cause of his behavior. So KJ may have a desire. He may want to watch a certain program, or he may have to use the restroom. But the thing about it is, he may not ask. He may wait to ask. And when he finally asks, he may have to go really badly. And so when he says it, he may say it with urgency: bathroom, please, bathroom, please, bathroom, please. And we're thinking, well, you've been sitting here. The bathroom's right there, but it's almost like he's waited to the point of emergency. And the reason is because there was a level of anxiety or angst even in asking. So just even those fear points that he might develop, that probably to us, it doesn't make sense. Like, this is something that is a rote activity that you do every day. Why are you fearing that? But there's a fear that you may say, wait. There's a fear that you may say, not now. So all of these things that we may have an anxiety about going on an interview for the first day, right? That's not a familiar territory. But for our children, sometimes there's anxiety in doing everyday things. And so just being able to tap into that, giving him that grace: son, it's okay. You can go to the restroom. And he may ask again: bathroom, please, bathroom, please, bathroom, please. We're actually on the way to the restroom, but he's still asking and confirming and asking and confirming. So just giving him that grace and assisting him in that process to do what he needs to do. But that anxiety piece helps us to understand that there's fear here, there's discomfort here. And so implementing some of those things to help alleviate that will help him be able to respond. Another thing, and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I know it's almost 1 o'clock. But sensory needs are a big thing for children and people who are on the spectrum. Everyone has a different sensory point that may be stronger than another. Some people, it may be their hearing. Really loud sounds annoy them. And it's interesting because KJ gets upset when he hears loud noises, but he's the loudest. But anyway, he doesn't like loud noises. It can adversely affect him. It can be, touch, right? So if he needs some type of input, there were certain clothes that we had to be sensitive to at a time. At one point, there was something implemented by his occupational therapy called brushing exercises. It was to help stimulate him so that he wouldn't be overstimulated. That was something that worked more when he was a little younger. I'd say maybe 11, 12, 13. It seems like he's grown out of that some, but that was something that he needed. Another thing might be it's like vestibular input. And so like sometimes he wants to like bang something really hard, right? So he might like there's something that the occupational therapists implement called push-offs. So like push off the wall, or he might just like jump really hard. Other times he's like throwing himself on the floor. So we're like, so we don't want you to hurt yourself. But he's looking for deep pressure input. Sometimes with just neurotypical teenagers, sometimes they want that rough and tumble. They want to like wrestle with their dad, or they want to wrestle with a guy. What is going on? They want input. They want contact, right? And so sometimes that contact kind of ministers to that sensory need that he has. And so there are different things that we utilize to help him with that. In his room, he has a crash pad, so he can take and just throw himself on that. And we know that he'll be safe because it's soft enough that it'll, protect him, but he can throw himself on it like with full weight, right? Or we have like one of those push pins. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's like he punches it. It's almost like a
punching bag.
It's similar to a punching bag. The one in his room. It's like one of those things that you push down and it comes back up. So he has that, and it's a way for him to release stress, release anger, release just any excess energy that he has. And so the sensory needs are a big thing. Another thing can be lights, right? So in various areas, like for example, at school or in different areas, they'll have covers over the lights because it may the light setting may be too much, and you might see someone on the spectrum like they might be squinting. KJ, he won't leave glasses on because we've tried that. Even sometimes when it's sunny outside, he may not want the glasses on, but he doesn't want the excessive light. So at some point something has to give. There are times to wear them, there are times that he won't, but it helps to know like what may be going on. So there are times that they may be too stimulated, and other times they're not stimulated enough. So just being able to gauge, what is the need and how do we effectively meet it? Okay. Challenges for children and adults, desiring to share abstract thought, feeling that their ability to communicate is limited, feeling misunderstood or not relating, not being able to connect, and then some of those sensory needs. Our those who are like young adults, kind of transitioning into adulthood. I believe that our young boys go through that pubescent stage, and just like just like young boys and men kind of go through that season of wet dreams and pubescence and everything. I think that children on the spectrum experience that as well. And so maybe some of those desires are coming up, and you can kind of see, okay, my son is definitely going through puberty here. And girls kind of go through it in their way as well. And so just recognizing that abstract thought may be difficult for our children to communicate. One of the things that his speech therapist is working with him on is learning how to communicate his feelings, right? And being able to say, I'm happy or I'm sad, and being able to spawn from that, well, what's going on, right? And the more empowered he is in communicating and being understood, the more connected he feels, and the more empowered he feels in getting that need met, even if it is an abstract one. This is something that we're actually going through with KJ now. Like my husband said, sometimes we're able to hit it on the nose, and other times we can't. Sometimes I feel that the Lord just kind of shares this with me in my heart. I just feel like sometimes he might be lonely, and so I might just play some music and just sit with him, and just hold his hand, and he might have a moment of crying. And so here we are, just sitting in the presence of the Lord and just letting him feel, right? And I think as a parent, you know, our desire is always to fix the problem, fix the problem. And sometimes it's being able to go through the process with our children, with our family members, so that they know, listen, you're not alone. I'm here with you and I feel you. I understand you. I may not be experiencing it to the same intensity. I may not know exactly, but I'm concerned and I'm here for you. And that's empowering to know that you get me. Yeah. Does anyone want to share on that or have any ideas or questions about that? Okay. Okay, so I have a few ideas in regards to how to help. We have been talking about them throughout because I didn't want to focus on the problem without giving answers as we were going along. But some things that can help are verbal prompts. That's actually something that our parenting coach really helped us with in regards to KJ at this point. In certain areas, we want him to develop to a level of automaticity. And what do I mean by that? Just in a sense that he just knows what to do, when to do it, just automatically. You wake up in the morning, you're going to brush your teeth, you're going to take care of your ADLs, you're going to wash your face. These are things that we as adults and people do developmentally and independently, and so we want to help him in that process. And so when getting up in the morning, I don't necessarily have to say, okay, KJ, it's time to brush your teeth. He already knows it's time to wash up, and so he'll say that, brush your teeth, shower, take a shower. He loves being fresh. Okay, so he'll say those things, right? Other things that have helped: speech therapy, occupational therapy, parent coaching. These supports have been exceptionally helpful to us. They have been empowering throughout KJ's development. KJ has been receiving speech therapy ever since he was age 2 to 3. KJ was actually diagnosed at age 3. And so the earlier that a child or an individual, an individual is diagnosed, the more empowered that you are, because you can start implementing supports early on. And I just remember feeling like, you know, I don't want my child stigmatized. I don't want you saying this about him. And I had a very special speech therapist say to me, don't worry about the diagnosis. Focus on how to get your son's needs met. Focus on meeting his needs and supporting him to the best of your ability, and don't allow for the diagnosis to limit him. And so that's what I resound to parents and those who are managing the care of someone who has special needs. Don't allow for the diagnosis to dictate what they can or can't do, because there are people who are on the spectrum who are doing some tremendous things. Okay, we have people who are on the spectrum, who are authors, who are writers, who are professionals, who are graduating from college, who are living on their own, who have families. And so I have a friend of mine, hopefully I'll be able to get her in our community at some point. Her name is Teresa Noy, and she has a son who is on the spectrum. He's in college now, soon to complete his degree, and he had just a lot of pervasive behaviors. And so things may be challenging throughout your process, but there's definitely hope for growth and development. And so having these supports, speech, OT, parenting coaching, is helpful. Medication, or natural remedies. So, you know, because honestly, I did not want to utilize medication. I did not. And so if there are herbs or some form of natural means that you're able to identify to empower you and or your children and family, utilize those supports. We found the need for medication when KJ was around 12 or 13 because of how severe some of his behaviors are. And so, but even with the medication, we pray over the medication and we believe God for his healing. Next, I mentioned spiritual supports, which I probably should have mentioned first and foremost. But prayer and deliverance, it is something that we are constantly incorporating in our process. Similar to how I mentioned when KJ will hear certain songs, it moves upon him, and we see a level of healing. We see manifestation of peace, sometimes that manifests like almost immediately. And so we definitely don't put a limit on what our faith and what our God is able to do. And next, I mentioned just extended support in groups, in family, in church, in community. It eliminates a feeling of isolation and separation. I can't reiterate that enough. Those who have children or family members on the spectrum, it may be challenging at first bringing your children out, because I know that a lot of people, they'll just leave their child or their adult at home and they'll go to church or they'll go shopping without them. And not saying that that can't happen here or there, but for the most part, I encourage, if at all, if possible, medically, etc., if they're not in the hospital or, have some type of severe medical need where they can't go into the community, I encourage taking them. I encourage taking them and believing God for a community that will support your family. God has really done that for us just throughout KJ's development. Our former church, they were supportive of us. The church where we are now, they're supportive of us. They understand our son. They gave us a room especially for him to be able to, get acclimated. Now KJ praises the Lord, and he might need to step out briefly and he comes back into the sanctuary. And so even that is a testimony, because initially he had severe tantrums to where he had to be removed because it was disruptive. And so that just shows the power of prayer, and the power of community and support. If KJ yells out, our pastor may say, "That's right, KJ." You know, so that's his way of saying, "Listen, man, I got you." You know what I mean? And you belong. And when you have a community that affirms your presence, it removes the shame and it says, "We're here with you," right? We are fighting with you. We are fighting for you. You are not alone. And we need to know that. And the last one was the tap out system, which Lisa, you tapped into. Opportunities for rest. If you have family members who can help, if you have a support team, medical and social, who are able to provide supports to where you're able to tap out and say, "Okay, we need a weekend," or if it would be awesome to be able to go away for a week so that you can refresh, and be able to be present for your child or adult in the way that they need you to be. Yeah. So I thank you all for your time. I did want to allow for anyone who might have had some ideas or questions. Please feel free to share at this time. We thank you for joining us and being a part of this so much.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. This was some awesome information. Thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us. And what I can do is forward you the PowerPoint, if that would be of assistance. I can do that.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
I just had one question, Joy, in regards to the young lady you said that was, because my mind just started going to respite care. Let's get us a location over here to be able to support in that area. So I don't know how God will do it, but it do pique my interest in regards to how can we get that in place. If it's, I don't know, not just for KJ, for any kid or that's dealing with, like you say, similar things that you have shared on this PowerPoint thing. So just wanted to know, I wanted to tap into the young lady that you mentioned that was considering doing respite care. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know that she is going to be forwarding, I guess, like detailed information, because she works at like a nursing home,
Okay.
and she's licensed. I believe she's an LPN or an RN, one of the two. But even like yourself, because you're an RN, right, Lisa?
No, I'm an LPN, and
Okay.
Jackie is an LPN. Jackie,
Oh,
that's on.
awesome. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's something that either or both of you are interested in, I think that's an untapped area, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do know that there are times that the insurance would cover a portion of it, for you to be able to go into the homes. But if you want to even do that as a private practice, I believe that you would have a lucrative experience. But I think it's just important for you to just be prepared for the behaviors, knowing the severity. There are children and families who have adults on the spectrum whose behaviors may not be as pervasive as KJ's, right? And so you have people on the spectrum who are a little bit more calm, a little bit more kosher, that kind of thing. And they need supports as well. And then you have someone like my son who he just needs the additional supports, and it will help him calm down. Some days are good where he doesn't have severe tantrums. I think for Jamar and myself, our concern is that whoever works with him, that they're not going to be, experience the severe physical attacks, those types of things. And just being able to help him mitigate that. And just because it can be, if you don't know how, like if you haven't been exposed to it, then it can be, like shocking. But once you become acclimated, like he'll be okay, he'll be fine, then I think you're able to kind of weather that storm and kind of create that bond despite some of the barriers that he might put up. Like I remember with this particular nurse, at that time, he might, like, some of his tantrums were 20-25 minutes, you know what I mean? And she would just be like, I'm fine, and it's like she has a calling, because she says that she has this patience for children on the spectrum, but regular people, she like, listen, I don't got time for them. So it was like she has like a calling, right? But yeah, I think definitely I can talk to you more about details regarding that, because even if you have a family where you develop like a contractual agreement, and you have your insurance to cover you, you know what I mean, for your like if you were to do like a private practice, and you could set up your own fee and identify, how much you would be willing to, exchange your service and your time, and, just be like a family support, whether it be one time or an ongoing basis, where, you might do an occasional weekend, or, a week here or there. And that would be a way to, maybe do something on the side, or even develop a practice. Maybe that's a business God is calling that you have in you.
For the young lady that's establishing the business,
Mhm.
it's not established yet. She's still in the process, right?
Right. So it's not established yet. She's still in the process of establishing it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I certainly can give you her information. Like I can let her know that you had some interest and so forth, and put you guys in touch with one another if that's something you're interested in.
I am interested because I want to know how to, maybe if I'm not the person that have the gift for working with it, but actually have a
Yeah.
facility in a place, and we can put the
Mm.
people there that are
Yeah.
professionals or whatever, something to that. I just need the knowledge in that area. I would like to search out for in that area to see how we can put things like that in place where there is a need, because that's a need, like you said.
It's a need.
It's definitely a
It's a need, because there are facilities where, if a child has these severe behaviors and their parents can no longer manage their care, then they, would actually be living at a facility. So there are some facilities that way, if the behaviors are that severe that they can't be mitigated. I do know in Pennsylvania they have respite, but it's more so respite to come into the home, and it's
yeah.
covered through the insurance, but it's coming into the home as opposed to a location.
Mhm.
But to have a place specifically for respite, right? Not necessarily where the child lives there, but where they're able to go, so that you can maybe go on a vacation or something like that. That's an excellent idea. And I think it's definitely an untapped need. So you're definitely onto something. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Y'all was great. Wonderful. Y'all did a wonderful job, both of you, sharing and just elaborating on, just it's even gave me knowledge today and how to understand, to get a better understanding in their interaction when they have the triggers, when they have behavior. So that was very insightful and very informative. So I thank you both. Y'all did really a wonderful job, and sharing with your own experience with your child. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you.
Mhm.
Okay. Does anyone else have any
Have a,
input or ideas? Jackie?
yeah, I do have a question. So I
Yes.
noticed that like autism is like really on a rise now, like more than ever. I see so many more people having children with autism now. But I just
Yeah.
speak about KJ. How does he interact with other kids with autism?
So that's interesting. A lot of times the children in his class, He may try to engage with them. What I have found, so we've had some negative experiences where maybe like some of the sounds that he makes may frustrate them. And so they may respond to him in a way that is, they may try to hit him or something like that. So we've had where that has happened. And then we've also had where he's enjoyed kind of working with them, like he enjoys going outside, like I was talking about the biohealth. And so when he goes out to like recess and that kind of thing, he loves to tap the students and see if they'll run after him and play with him. But sometimes just his ability to kind of make that connection, I don't see it as much as I would like. But for example,
Okay.
he does have a connection with, with his sister, with his brother. And sometimes, we might have, family members come over, that kind of thing. He might feel a connection with them, and he'll be able to have that engagement. But I think because he's aware of his differences, he's very particular as to making attempts to connect to people. So if he doesn't feel that invitation, he doesn't necessarily initiate. Yeah. So his
Mm.
interaction is minimal. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm like Lisa. I learned so much today. Thank you.
I'm so
Thank you
glad.
so
I'm
much.
so glad. Yeah, but KJ is like he's a lady lover, so he loved like a lot of his workers. So he likes to give fives, he likes to give kisses, and so one of the thing is that we have tried to help him understand boundaries because while he's at school, a lot of the people would like to just accept him and just kind of receive him as family. And but what we try to do is let him know, like, if you don't feel comfortable with a thing, set the boundaries. So for example, he kisses my husband, he's a stepdad, right? But at school, the gentleman may not feel comfortable with you giving them a kiss, so we'll say, KJ, high five, high five. And so it helps him understand, well, the boundary is high five. So even though you may want to do that because it's something you do at home, and that gives you a level of sensory input, that may not be socially acceptable. And now that he's older, like he wants to he wants a kiss, especially with some of the women. And so he's like, no, kiss. And he wants to, and they're like, no, KJ, high five, high five. Or they might say hug. So then he'll give him a hug. But yeah, KJ, he's a lady lover. He loves the ladies.
Um, and I love what you said about how your pastor interacts with him at church and how they made space for him. I think that's amazing that he does that.
Yeah. So the name of our church is City of Love, and I think just the desire is to really connect to everyone so that everyone feels that they have a place where they belong. And so, when we were first going there, KJ's not comfortable. He's like, why are we here? He's trying to leave. But immediately when he met our pastor, he immediately wanted to play with him. He immediately wanted to connect. And so I think aside from just loving the Lord, our pastor has a background in working with children, and kind of working with IEPs and in the system. And so I don't know if KJ was able to pick up on all of that, but he tends to be a pretty good judgment of character. And so if he connects with someone, usually that person has a sensitivity for him. And if he doesn't, oftentimes they don't work really well with him. So yeah, we do pay attention to his cues and some of his social behaviors. Sometimes, like, we can look at a negative response that a child will demonstrate and say, okay, well, that child is being rebellious or something. But it's good to pay attention to our children's cues because they're telling. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We so appreciate your willingness to be present, and receive from us. We will be following back up in February, the second Thursday in February. I'm actually going to look at the date right now, and we will be back. Please let us know. So that will be February the 13th. So we'll be back at 12 p.m. on February the 13th. If there are any specific topics that you would like to know about, any specific topics that you feel that would benefit our community, we would definitely like to share and hear about those. And we are looking forward to our first annual Healing and Empowerment Conference on April 26th, 2025. Yeah. And we actually have Lillian Harrison here. I just want to give her a shout out. Lillian, we're so glad that you're here to be with us. Lillian just has a very immense background with housing and working with several special needs populations. And so she's actually going to be presenting at our conference. And so we're so happy that she graced us with her presence today. Lillian, I don't know if you want to say something at this time, but we're so glad to have you.
I just want to say it was great information. I'm sitting here like a proud mama because it was absolutely what's needed right now for a lot of people who are simply trying to navigate in their homes, let alone in the community. So you did a phenomenal job, and just looking excited that you're going to continue and that this is going to grow. So yeah, job well done.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think just lastly, just want to breathe a level of hope into this community because, not only do we experience seeing our children experience frustration, but it can be frustrating for us as well. And so the support that we receive from our community is priceless. Anytime that you can encourage someone who is dealing with someone who has special needs, right? Because KJ's Genesis, our focus is the autistic community, but we have a heart for those who have cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, Down syndrome, the hearing impaired, the vision impaired. We just have a heart for those who have to do life differently. And we want them to feel like there is hope for them. There is a fullness of life for them, that their life doesn't have to be second best, but that God has a hope and a future for them, and that we're motivated to tap into that. So if you happen to maybe you'll see a mom at the grocery store with their child, and that child may seem like they have a special need, an encouraging word would be helpful. Maybe it's a single dad or mom and a dad, whomever. Whenever you're able to offer a level of hope or sensitivity or compassion or understanding, it goes a mighty long way. Okay. All right. Did you have anything to close out with?
No. Yes, thank you guys. Thank you for the compliments. Thank you for taking the time, excuse me, to help us in pushing this forward. We definitely need the support. I know it's difficult. A lot of people, what I'm learning is a lot of people in this community, they do isolate themselves. You don't want people in your business. Some stuff is just, you don't really want to talk about, and it's very sensitive. But I'm learning that the more you open up and the more that you join the community, it helps. It helps because it takes a village. This is something that's very challenging if you do it on your own. So thank you guys for being a part of this.
All right. So with that being said, we'll be following back up on February 13th, 2025. Happy New Year to all of you, and thank you for being a part. Thank you for being a part of our first parent support group. All right.
Thank you.
See you
Happy
guys.
New Year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.